The river that didn't forget. The river ran cold even under a hot Arizona sun, cutting through red rock and cottonwood shade like a blade through old memories. Most men rode past it without looking. The river had a way of staring back. Caleb Hart did look. He was a cowboy with dust in his lashes and a silence that had grown comfortable over the years. People in Juniper Ridge called him steady, the kind of word folks used when they didn't know what else to say about a man who kept his head down and his heart locked up. His horse, Boone, slowed on his own, ears twitching towards something that didn't belong in the wind. A sound, not a bird, not a coyote, a sob. Caleb swung down and followed the cottonwoods, boots crunching on dry leaves. The river shimmered through branches, and there, half hidden by reeds, was a girl. She couldn't have been more than 16. Her black hair clung to her cheeks. Her hands shook as if cold lived inside her bones. Her dress was torn at the hem, and her feet were bare, smeared with mud and blood. But it was her eyes that stopped Caleb in place, dark, bright, furious, and terrified all at once. She stared at him like he was a threat, like the world only came in two kinds, hunters and hunted. Caleb lifted his hand slowly. "Easy," he said, voice rough from disuse. "I'm not here to hurt you." She backed away, stumbling. "Don't come closer." Her accent carried the desert in it, sharp and musical. Caleb noticed a small beaded cord around her wrist, handmade, not store-bought, not a trinket, something personal, something kept. Caleb swallowed. "You're bleeding. Let me help." "No." She pressed her palm to her side, wincing. Help is what people say before they take. That sentence hit harder than any punch. Caleb crouched, careful not to look bigger than he was. "What's your name?" She hesitated, like giving it away might cost her. "Naya." A hawk cried overhead. The river kept moving, pretending it hadn't seen anything. Caleb nodded. "Naya, I'm Caleb. I've got water, and I've got a coat." He eased his coat off and set it on the ground between them like a peace offering. "You can take it if you want. I'll step back." Naya's eyes flicked to the coat, then to him. Her breathing shuddered. Pride wrestled with pain, and pain was winning. Caleb stepped back, hands open, and waited. She crawled forward like an animal that had been kicked too many times. She snatched the coat, wrapped it around herself, and for one brief moment, her shoulders sank with relief, then snapped back up when she remembered she wasn't safe. Caleb tried not to stare at the bruises on her arms. "What happened?" he asked softly. Naya's jaw tightened. "I ran." "From who?" She didn't answer. Instead, she looked beyond him toward the ridgeline, eyes narrowing. "They're near." Caleb followed her gaze. At first, he saw nothing. Then he heard it. Distant hoofbeats. Not one horse. 3, maybe 4. Naya's voice dropped to a whisper. "If they find me, they'll finish what they started." Caleb's stomach turned. "Who are they?" Naya's lips trembled, and when she spoke, it came out like the name tasted poisonous. "The men from Juniper Ridge." Caleb went still. "That's my town." Naya's stare was a knife. "Then you're one of them." "I'm not," Caleb said, too fast. Then he slowed, forcing truth into each word. "I'm from there, but I'm not like them." Naya laughed once, small, bitter, disbelieving. "All men say that." The hoofbeats grew louder. Caleb's mind raced. If he left her, she'd be dragged back. God knew where. If he took her to town, she'd be trapped among the very people she feared. If he tried to fight 4 men alone, he might die, but dying felt easier than living with doing nothing. He took Boone's reins and looked at Naya. "Can you ride?" She flinched like the question hurt. "Yes." "Then get on. Now." Naya hesitated. "Why?" Caleb met her gaze and didn't look away. "Because nobody cries by a river like that unless the world failed them. And I'm done being the kind of man who rides past." The hoofbeats broke through the trees. A voice shouted from the ridge, sharp and hunting. "There! I saw her." Naya's face drained the color. She grabbed Caleb's arm with surprising strength. "If you help me," she whispered, "they'll come for you too." Caleb swung up onto Boone, then reached down. then let them come. Naya climbed behind him, arms trembling as she held on, not to him, but to the chance of one more breath. Caleb kicked Boone into motion, bursting from the cottonwoods and onto the open bank. Wind slapped his face. Dust rose. Behind them, the riders emerged, 3 men in town hats, rifles slung, closing fast. And in the lead, Caleb recognized the posture before he recognized the voice. Sheriff Harlan Voss. The law. Caleb's blood ran cold. Harlan Voss raised his rifle and shouted, "Hart, bring the girl back." "That's an order." Caleb didn't slow. Naya pressed her forehead to Caleb's back, voice shaking. "That man, he's the worst one." Caleb's grip tightened on the reins as Boone thundered forward. He realized, in one terrifying heartbeat, that he hadn't just found a crying girl by a river. He'd found the truth, and the truth was chasing them with a badge and a gun. The safe house that wasn't safe. The plains opened wide, but fear rode faster than wind. Boone's hooves pounded the earth as Caleb pushed him toward the old canyon trail, the one only ranchers used, the one that disappeared into rock like a secret. Behind them, Sheriff Voss and his men stayed stubbornly close, rifles glinting in the sun. "Hold on," Caleb growled. Naya clung tighter, nails digging through his shirt. "He'll kill you." Caleb glanced back. Voss wasn't aiming high anymore. He was aiming to end it. Caleb cut hard left, guiding Boone toward a narrow pass where boulders crowded like clenched teeth. The trail shrank to a ribbon. Voss's men cursed as their horses slowed, forced into single file. Caleb breathed through his teeth. Almost there. Naya's voice broke. "Where are you taking me?" "My uncle's cabin," Caleb said. "It's abandoned. Nobody goes there." "Nobody," Naya repeated, like she didn't trust that word. Caleb didn't either. Not anymore. The canyon swallowed them. Shadows cooled the air. Boone slipped once on gravel, then caught himself. Caleb's hand stayed steady, but inside his chest everything rattled. At last, the canyon widened into a hidden bowl of stone. Tucked against the cliff was a cabin, gray wood, a sagging roof, and a small corral that hadn't held cattle in years. It looked like a place the world forgot. Caleb slid off, helped Naya down, and pulled her into the cabin fast. The inside smelled of dust and pine rot, a rusty stove, a cot, a table that still carried old knife marks. Caleb shoved the door closed and barred it with a thick beam. Naya backed into a corner, eyes scanning for traps. "This is your safe place." "It's the only place I can think of," Caleb answered. He pulled a lantern from a shelf and struck a match. The flame flickered like it was scared too. Naya winced as she shifted. Caleb finally saw the injury clearly, a gash near her ribs, badly wrapped with cloth that had bled through. Caleb's throat tightened. "Sit. Let me clean that." She jerked away. "No." Caleb held her gaze. "If you don't, infection will do what they couldn't." Naya swallowed. Her pride cracked just a little. She sat on the edge of the cot, shoulders tense. Caleb poured water into a tin bowl, tore a clean strip from an old sheet, and knelt. Not like a hero, but like a man trying to earn forgiveness from the universe. When he lifted the bloody cloth, Naya sucked in a breath and turned her face away. Caleb saw bruises, finger-shaped marks, dark on her skin. His voice came out low. "Who did this?" Naya's eyes flashed. "I said I ran." "From what?" "From them." Her jaw shook. "They came to the camp, said we were trespassing, said we were stealing cattle." "Lies." Caleb's stomach twisted. "What camp?" Naya hesitated, then spoke like she was stepping off a cliff. "My family. Apache. We were moving, staying near the ridge for water. Sheriff Voss came with men. He said we needed papers. We told him we had none because the land was ours before his town even had a name." Caleb's hands paused. "What happened?" Naya stared at the wall, like it was safer than looking at him. "They took my father, said he was under arrest. My mother tried to stop them. They—" Her voice broke, and she pressed her lips together until they turned white. "I don't know where my father is. I only know Voss smiled when I begged." Caleb felt something inside him split open, something old, something shameful, because he had heard stories about Voss. Everybody had, and everybody pretended the stories were just talk. Caleb cleaned the wound gently. "You're brave," he said, not as a compliment, but as recognition. Naya laughed bitterly. "Brave? I was screaming. I was running like a rabbit." Caleb tied the fresh bandage. "Brave isn't quiet. Brave is doing what you did anyway." Outside, the canyon echoed distant hoofbeats. Naya froze. They followed. Caleb snuffed a lantern, plunging them into dim light. He moved to the window crack and peeked out. 3 riders appeared at the mouth of the canyon bowl, slowing as they saw the cabin. Then the sheriff rode in last, calm as a man arriving for supper. Harlan Voss dismounted and looked straight at the cabin door, as if he could see through wood and fear. His voice carried, smooth and deadly. "Caleb, open up. We don't want trouble." Caleb whispered, "He knows." Naya's breath trembled. "He always knows." Voss walked closer. "That girl is a witness to something that doesn't concern her. Bring her out, and I'll forget this little stunt." Caleb's jaw clenched. "Forget," he muttered, like he forgot every other crime. Naya leaned close, voice urgent. "If you hand me over, you'll be safe. If you don't, they'll destroy you." Caleb looked at her, and for the first time he saw not only fear, but a desperate kind of dignity, like she'd rather sacrifice herself than watch another person get crushed. Caleb stood, shoulders squaring. "I'm already destroyed," he whispered. "I just didn't admit it yet." He stepped to the door and shouted back, "She stays?" For a moment, silence. Then Voss chuckled, soft, amused. "Well, the sheriff called. If that's your choice, I'll do what I did to her family." Caleb's blood ran cold. "What did you do?" Voss's answer came without hesitation, like it was nothing. "I buried the father where nobody will look." Naya made a sound, half sob, half scream, covering her mouth with both hands. Caleb's vision tunneled. Rage rose so fast it shocked him. He grabbed the old rifle mounted above the stove, his uncle's. Checked the chamber. 2 bullets. 2. Outside, Voss stepped back and nodded to his man. A bottle flew through the cabin window, glass shattering, and a sheet of flame rolled across the floorboards. Smoke surged. Naya coughed, eyes wide. "Fire!" Caleb grabbed her wrist. "Back door now!" They ran through choking smoke toward the rear exit, but when Caleb slammed it open, he froze. A 4th man stood there in the shadows, rifle raised, grinning. Deputy Rusk, Caleb's childhood friend. Rusk's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Sorry, Caleb. Sheriff says the girl comes with us." Caleb's heart dropped through the floor. The price of a friend. Smoke clawed at Caleb's throat. Heat pressed against his back. Deputy Rusk's rifle aimed steady at Caleb's chest like they were strangers. Naya stood behind Caleb, shaking, her fingers gripping the coat tighter. Her eyes locked on Rusk with pure hatred. Caleb's voice came out hoarse. Rusk put the gun down. Rusk's jaw twitched. "You shouldn't have run, Caleb. You know how this goes." "How it goes?" Caleb demanded. "A girl gets hunted like an animal. A father gets buried like trash." Rusk's eyes flickered, just for a second. "Don't make it worse." Naya stepped forward, voice cracking but fierce. "You already made it worse. You all did." Rusk's gaze snapped to her. "Quiet." Caleb took a slow breath, trying to think through the roar of fire. "Russ, we grew up together. You saved me once when Boone threw me. You remember that." Rusk swallowed. "This ain't that." "It's exactly that," Caleb said. "Back then you didn't ask who was watching. You just acted." Rusk's grip tightened. "Sheriff Voss is watching now." Caleb heard it. Fear. Not loyalty. Fear. Caleb's eyes darted past Rusk. The sheriff's silhouette moved outside, visible through drifting smoke from a window. Voss wasn't rushing. He was waiting. Let the fire scare them. Let Rusk finish it. Caleb spoke softer. "Rusk, what does he have on you?" Rusk flinched like Caleb had slapped him. Naya whispered, "He owns you." Rusk's eyes snapped furious. "I said quiet." Caleb took another half step forward, hands raised. "Listen to me. If you hand her over, you'll never wash it off. You'll hear her screaming every time you close your eyes. Rusk's voice shook. You think I don't already? That confession hung in the smoky air. Caleb's stomach turned. What did you do? Rusk's face contorted, like he was holding back something poisonous. I didn't want. A crack outside. A boot against the front door. The beam holding it rattled. Voss's voice floated in, calm as sin. Rusk, stop flirting with conscience and do your job. Rusk's eyes flicked to the sheriff's shadow. I have to. Caleb's mind raced. 2 bullets. 1 friend with a gun. Fire chewing the cabin. And a girl whose life was being auctioned by men who wore law like a costume. Caleb lowered his hands slowly and glanced at Naya. When I say run, he murmured, you run toward the creek bed. Stay low. Don't look back. Naya's voice was a whisper. What about you? Caleb gave her a look that carried a promise and a regret. I'll meet you. Rusk saw the glance. Don't. Caleb's shoulders tensed. Then he moved. Not toward the door. Toward the table. He flipped it hard. The wood slammed into Rusk's knees. The rifle fired, blasting the ceiling. Caleb lunged, grabbing the barrel, twisting. Rusk grunted, fighting back. Naya darted past him like a shadow, sprinting out the back into the canyon bowl. Rusk wrestled, teeth clenched. Caleb, stop. You'll get us both killed. Caleb shoved Rusk into the wall. Then choose. Rusk's fist slammed into Caleb's jaw. Stars exploded behind Caleb's eyes. The taste of blood flooded his mouth. Outside, Voss shouted, After her! Boots pounded. Men ran. Caleb staggered, still gripping the rifle barrel. Rusk yanked hard, tearing it free. The barrel swung back toward Caleb. Then Rusk froze. Because in that instant, Caleb saw what Rusk didn't want to show. His badge wasn't clean. It was scratched, bent, like it had been torn off and put back on. Caleb's voice dropped, deadly quiet. He made you hurt someone, didn't he? Rusk's eyes glistened. Don't ask. Caleb stepped closer, pain sharpening him. If you don't stop him today, you'll spend the rest of your life being his weapon. Rusk's lips trembled. You don't understand. Caleb's laugh was bitter. I understand more than you think. I spent years telling myself staying quiet kept me safe. All it did was make me complicit. Rusk's hand shook on the rifle. His eyes flicked toward the back door, toward where Naya had run, then toward the front where Voss's men were shouting. Rusk whispered, He'll kill my wife. Caleb's heart clenched. What? Rusk swallowed hard. He said if I don't do what he tells me, he'll claim she's a thief. He'll drag her through town like an animal. Same as, his voice cracked, same as, Caleb's jaw tightened. Then we end this, together. Rusk stared at Caleb like he was offering something impossible. We can't. Caleb reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, an old photograph, worn edges. His mother, his father, and a younger Caleb smiling in front of a barn. My father died because he stood up once, Caleb said, voice shaking. And I spent my life blaming him for leaving me with grief. But the truth is, he left me with a lesson. That fear doesn't disappear. You just decide who it belongs to. Rusk's eyes dropped to the photo, then lifted. If I turn on Voss, I'm dead. Caleb nodded. Maybe, but if you don't, you're already dead, just breathing. The front door beam snapped. Firelight surged. A loud crash. Voss and his men were coming in. Rusk stared into the smoke, then back at Caleb. Something shifted in his face, like a man waking up after years of sleep. He shoved the rifle into Caleb's hands. Go. Caleb froze. Rusk. Rusk stepped back, voice firm now. Get to the creek bed. Find her. I'll slow them down. Caleb's throat tightened. You'll die. Rusk's smile trembled, small, sad. Maybe, but maybe my wife gets to live without me being a coward. Caleb grabbed Rusk's arm. What's your wife's name? Rusk met his eyes. Mara. Caleb nodded, holding that name like a vow. I won't forget. Rusk shoved Caleb toward the back door. Move. Caleb ran out into the canyon air, lungs burning. Behind him, the cabin roared. And inside it, Rusk shouted at the sheriff, "She's gone. You want her, you'll have to go through me." Caleb sprinted toward the creek bed, scanning. Naya. A figure moved ahead. Naya, crouched behind rocks, breathing hard. Caleb reached her. "We've got to keep moving." Naya's eyes were wild. "They'll track us." Caleb nodded. "Then we change the game." He pulled out the tin canteen, poured water onto the sand and muddy tracks, then dragged a branch behind them to erase their line. Naya watched, startled. "You know how to hide." Caleb's expression hardened. "I had to learn, to survive my own town." They slipped into the creek bed, moving like shadows between stone. But then Caleb heard it. Another set of hoofbeats. Not from behind. From ahead. Caleb grabbed Naya and pulled her down as riders appeared at the far end of the creek bed, blocking the path. Not Voss's men. Strangers. And they wore red cloth tied around their arms. Naya's breath caught. "That's not them." Caleb's hand tightened on the rifle. "Then who are they?" One of the riders lifted his face covering and smiled. "Too clean, too pleased." "We've been looking for you," the man called. "Sheriff's paying good money for the girl." Naya's eyes widened in horror. "He hired bounty hunters." Caleb realized too late the sheriff's reach wasn't just a town. It was the whole territory. The truth buried under badges. The bounty hunters moved with confidence, like men who believed the world was already theirs. 3 of them spread out, boots crunching on gravel, hands hovering near their holsters. Caleb kept Naya low behind a boulder. He whispered, "Stay behind me no matter what." Naya's voice trembled. "You can't fight them." Caleb's eyes stayed locked on the closest hunter, a broad-shouldered man with a scar down his cheek. "I don't have to win," Caleb murmured. "I just have to buy time." The scarred hunter called out, "Come on out, Cowboy. Sheriff says you're confused. We can fix that." Caleb stood slowly, rifle visible but not raised. He stepped out from behind the boulder, placing himself between Naya and them. "I'm not confused," Caleb said. "I'm disgusted." The hunter chuckled. "That's a fancy word for a ranch hand." "I'm not handing her over," Caleb said. "Turn around." The hunter's eyes narrowed. "You got a death wish?" Caleb's voice turned colder. "You ever wonder why a sheriff needs men, like you instead of the law?" A second hunter, thinner and twitchy, spat to the side. "Because the law is slow and we're fast." "Or because he's hiding a crime," Caleb snapped. The scar hunter's smile faded. "Careful." Caleb took a breath and made a choice. He would speak the truth out loud, even if it got him killed. "Sheriff Voss murdered her father," Caleb said. "Buried him. That's why she ran." For a moment, the canyon went quiet, like even the wind listened. Then the thin hunter laughed. Sheriff didn't pay us to debate. The third hunter, older, eyes sharper, hesitated. He said she was a thief. Naya's voice cut through from behind the rock, fierce and shaking. "He lies. He stole my father. He stole our home." The older hunter stared toward her voice, something flickering behind his eyes. Not mercy, calculation. Caleb lifted the rifle slightly. "If you take her, you're not just collecting money. You're helping a murderer erase the last witness." The scar hunter stepped forward, hands wide like he was calming a horse. "Okay, put the rifle down. We'll take you both in. Sheriff can sort out." Caleb laughed once, humorless. "Sort out? Like he sorted her family?" The scar hunter's jaw tightened. "Last chance." Caleb's finger brushed the trigger. He fired. The shot exploded against the rock near the scarred hunter's feet, close enough to throw gravel into his face. The hunters dove for cover, cursing. Caleb grabbed Naya's wrist. "Run." They sprinted down the creek bed, splashing through shallow water, dodging between stones. Behind them, gunshots cracked, ricocheting off canyon walls like angry thunder. Naya stumbled, clutching her side. Caleb caught her and kept moving. "We can't outrun horses," Naya gasped. "I know," Caleb said. "We don't outrun them. We outthink them." He veered sharply into a narrow in the rock, a crevice barely wide enough for 2 bodies. He shoved Naya inside, then squeezed after her. The crevice opened into a small hidden pocket, dark and cool. Caleb presses back to stone, listening. Hoofbeats thundered nearby, then slowed. Voices echoed. Tracks end here. They went into the crack. Caleb's hand clenched around the rifle. One bullet left. Naya's eyes were huge in the dim light. We're trapped. Caleb's mind raced. Then he remembered something his uncle used to say. The desert always has a second door, if you're humble enough to look for it. Caleb ran his fingers along the rock wall, feeling for a draft. A faint, cool breeze touched his knuckles. He whispered. There. He pushed, and a thin slab of stone shifted, like a hidden panel. Beyond it, a crawl space led deeper, downward. Naya stared. How? My uncle hunted coyotes, Caleb said. He built this as a hiding place for when men were worse than animals. They crawled through the narrow passage, scraping elbows, breathing dust. The tunnel sloped down, then opened into a low cave with another exit that angled toward the ridge. Caleb peered out carefully and froze. Below, near a cluster mesquite, he saw a scene that snapped his heart in two. Sheriff Voss stood with two men, and between them was Deputy Rusk. Rusk's hands were tied. His face was bruised. Blood ran from his lip. Voss walked around like a man inspecting livestock. You disappointed me, Rusk. Rusk's voice was hoarse but defiant. I'm done. Voss smiled. No, you're not. Voss nodded to his men. One of them held up a woman by the arm, Mara, Rusk's wife. Her face terrified, her hair disheveled. Rusk made a strangled sound. Leave her out of this. Voss leaned close to Rusk's ear, loud enough for the canyon to carry. You had one job. Now you'll watch me teach you what happens when you grow a conscience. Naya covered her mouth, horrified. Caleb's hand shook, not from fear, but from rage. Rusk lifted his head and shouted, voice breaking, Caleb, don't. Rusk's eyes found the ridge, found Caleb's hiding place for a brief second, like he sensed him. Caleb whispered, I'm here. Voss turned sharply, scanning the rocks. He didn't see Caleb yet, but he felt something. Voss shouted, bring the girl to me. I want this finished before sundown. Caleb's mind locked onto one thing. Voss needed the last witness gone. That meant Naya. Caleb looked at Naya. If he gets you, he erases everything. Naya's eyes burned. Then we don't let him. Caleb nodded slowly. We need proof, not just words. Naya swallowed. Proof of my father? Caleb's jaw tightened. He said he buried him where nobody would look. Naya's voice dropped to a whisper. There's a place, the old dry wash near the Blackstones. My father once told me, if I ever disappear, look where the earth is too quiet. Caleb stared. You know where. Naya nodded, tears forming but not falling. I think so. Caleb looked down at Voss, at Mara trembling, at Rusk bound and bleeding. One bullet, one chance. Caleb breathed, forcing calm into his veins. We get to that wash, he whispered. We dig. We bring truth into the light. And then we burn Voss's world down with it. Naya's voice was steady now, stronger than fear. And Mara... Caleb's eyes hardened. We save her too. Below, Voss drew his revolver and pressed it under Rusk's chin, smiling like a man about to enjoy himself. When the river finally speaks, Caleb's finger hovered over the trigger. He could end Voss in one shot. But the barrel felt heavier than it should, like the weight of every consequence in the desert hung from it. Naya whispered, voice trembling, do it. Caleb's jaw clenched. His eyes flicked to Mara, held tight by a man with a knife. If Caleb fired and Voss dropped, the man might panic. Panic killed faster than hatred. Caleb lowered the rifle slowly. Naya stared at him, shocked. Why? Caleb spoke through his teeth. Because I'm not giving him a reason to butcher her. Below, Voss smirked and spoke in a voice meant to carry. You hear that, Rusk? Even your friend won't save you. Rusk spat blood. He will, just not your way. Voss's smile faltered for half a second. Caleb's mind snapped into motion. Proof. Truth. A weapon stronger than a bullet. He leaned close to Naya. We go now. while he's busy playing king. Naya's eyes shone with tears and fury. And if he kills him before we return? Caleb's voice was iron. Then we make sure the whole territory knows who pulled the trigger. So even if he escapes justice in this life, he won't escape judgment in any other. They slip back through the cave exit and move along the ridge line, low and fast, using rocks and brush for cover. The desert sun sank toward orange. Shadows stretched long like fingers. Caleb's thoughts churned. Why me? Why now? Then he remembered the river, the cry, the moment he chose not to ride past. Sometimes life didn't change in grand speeches. Sometimes it changed because a man finally stopped being a bystander. Naya guided him toward a dry wash where black stones sat like burned bones against the sand. The air felt strange there, still heavy, like the place held its breath. This is it, Naya whispered. The earth is too quiet. Caleb grabbed a shovel from the saddlebag, an old ranch tool he'd packed without thinking. Now it felt like destiny. They dug. Sand gave way to harder soil. Caleb's arms burned. Sweat stung his eyes. Naya dug beside him with trembling hands, desperate and furious. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Then the shovel hit something that wasn't earth. A sound dull, sickening. Naya froze. Her breath caught in her throat. Caleb swallowed, then carefully cleared the sand. A piece of cloth emerged first. Faded, familiar beads stitched into it. Naya made a sound that tore through Caleb's chest. That's his. Caleb kept digging, heart pounding, until they uncovered enough to know. A shallow grave. A body. The world tilted. Naya collapsed to her knees, shaking violently. She didn't scream. She didn't sob loud. She simply broke. Quietly, completely. Like a tree splitting from inside. Caleb knelt beside her, voice raw. Naya, I'm so sorry. Naya's hands trembled as she touched the beaded cloth. He told me to be strong. He said, strength is not never falling. Strength is standing back up when the world tries to bury you. Caleb closed his eyes, fighting tears. Then we stand. He pulled a small notebook from his pocket, his ranch ledger. He tore out pages, wrapped the beads in a recognizable piece of cloth carefully. Evidence. Naya looked up, eyes burning now. They will say it's not true. Caleb shook his head. Not if we put it in front of people who can't ignore it. He glanced toward town. There's a circuit judge passing through next week. My uncle used to say he stops at the Mission Church in Pine Hollow. Naya's voice sharpened. Then we go there. Caleb helped her up. Yes, but first we need to save Mara. And we need someone else who knows where Voss hides his sins. Naya wiped her face, chin lifting. Russ. Caleb nodded. Russ. They rode hard back toward the canyon, keeping low, avoiding open ground. As they approached, they heard shouting, angry, frantic. Smoke still rose from the cabin's direction, a black scar against the sky. They crept close enough to see the clearing. Voss's men were scattered. 2 bounty hunters lay groaning on the ground, disarmed. Rusk must have fought them before being captured. Mara stood with her hands bound, face streaked with tears. And Rusk was on his knees, bruised, breathing hard, staring up at Voss. Voss paced like a predator. You see, deputy, this is why I hate heroes. They ruin a perfectly profitable world. Rusk's voice was hoarse but steady. You're done, Voss. Voss laughed. Done? Who's going to stop me? You? That girl? Caleb Hart with his broken conscience. Caleb's blood went cold. Voss knew Caleb was nearby. Maybe he always did. Caleb stepped out from behind the rock, rifle in hand, not raised but visible. Voss's eyes locked on him, bright with amusement. There he is, the town's quiet little rancher playing savior. Caleb's voice was low and deadly. It ends the day. Voss smiled. With what? 1 bullet. Naya stepped beside Caleb, holding up the beaded cloth and the wrapped evidence. With truth, Naya said, voice shaking but unbreakable. You buried my father, but the earth doesn't keep your secrets forever. For the first time, Voss's smile cracked. Caleb saw it. Fear, quick and sharp. Voss's eyes flicked toward his men, then toward the horizon. calculating escape. You don't have a court, Voss snapped. You don't have witnesses. Rusk lifted his head, blood on his teeth. You do now. Rusk's words hit like thunder. One by one, Voss's men hesitated. The bounty hunters shifted uneasily. Even criminals had limits when the truth became undeniable. Caleb took one step forward. Unbind Mara. Let her go. Voss's hand drifted toward his revolver. Or what? Caleb's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Or every man here will know the moment they keep following you. They're digging their own graves. Silence. Then one of Voss's men, young, nervous, slowly lowered his rifle. Another followed. Voss's face twisted with rage. Cowards. Caleb kept his eyes locked on Voss. It's not courage to obey a monster. It's courage to stop him. Naya's voice cut through, steady as stone. My father is not buried anymore. Your lies are... Voss's eyes flashed. In a heartbeat, he yanked his revolver. Caleb fired. The bullet struck Voss's gun hand. The revolver flew into the dirt. Voss screamed, clutching his wrist, stumbling back. Rusk surged forward, tackling him despite his bound hands. Men rushed in, some to hold Voss down, others to cut Mara free. Mara fell into Rusk's arms, sobbing. Rusk whispered into her hair, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Caleb stood there breathing hard, not feeling heroic, just finally clean. Voss, pinned in the dust, spat venom. You think this ends me? I have friends. Judges. Men with money. Naya stepped close, eyes burning like sunrise after storm. And now we have the truth. Caleb looked toward the river beyond the cottonwoods. It kept moving, steady, honest. The world didn't change because evil stopped existing. The world changed because someone finally stood up and said, no more. Caleb turned to Naya. I can't undo what happened. Naya's voice trembled, but her spine stayed straight. No, but you can help me make sure it never happens again. Caleb nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. Then I will. They rode toward Pine Hollow at first light. Caleb, Naya, Rusk, and Mara, with evidence wrapped tight and truth burning brighter than fear. And somewhere behind them, Juniper Ridge began to wake up to the sound of justice knocking.